SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Hump Day.
Well, the president is over there in jolly old England, and it appears that there is a Make England Great Again movement going on. It turns out, Rhino, that this yearning for freedom is universal. It's just innate in us as humans.
Yeah, there were a whole bunch of people that hit the streets this past weekend. I believe it was on Saturday. They had a big rally. And the media reported it as, I think the lowest number they reported was 6,000, but about the average was 14 to 15,000. And then you had people flying over with drones doing the math going, yeah, that's more than 15,000. Now, I don't think it got anywhere close to the millions of people they claimed, but there were a couple 100,000 people on the streets of England in support of taking back the freedoms and liberties that they seemingly no longer have.
I think the Brits have figured out that their government has gotten out of its swim lane. Is this like a return to the days of King George? It feels like it. When you're running around, as is occurring in England, arresting people because they post something on social media that causes another anxiety. What are you here for? Well, I'm arresting you because you posted something. This actually happened. I'm not making this up. We had reports that it caused anxiety. And
it depends on the reporting, but between 16 and 31 people a day are arrested for causing anxiety.
Oh, my gosh. Causing anxiety.
I'm not sure that's the actual charging offense, but yeah, it's basically what it boils down to.
And, of course, that's pretty subjective. Like, define anxiety. There are different levels of that. Different connotations of it, different definitions of it.
Different understandings of its place in life and your psyche. There are a lot of people that have convinced themselves or have been convinced that you should live a life with zero anxiety. And it's like, that's pretty much impossible. You can limit anxiety and you can limit how anxiety affects you.
Right.
But if you try to limit your life from anxiety, it's going to be a very sterile, lonely life.
And so in the UK, though, their solution to eliminating anxiety is to infringe on the rights of others just to say something, think something. And in the case here in the United States, thinking and saying something that was just honestly the truth, and even if you disagreed that it was just one's opinion without harming anyone else, caused Charlie Kirk, the person that was expressing his opinion, to lose his life. And then we've got all these loons across the country who are celebrating this loss of life, and then they're shocked when they get fired, terminated, reprimanded, censured, all the other various punishments that have been applied. I'm telling you, this wouldn't have happened within the first couple of years after the George Floyd deal, where everything just skewed so far in the direction of just deference to anything. And corporations were complicit with this. I mean, starting with, I think back on the first incident, I can't seem to recall any that happened prior to Major League Baseball moving the All-Star game on the false basis of voter suppression in Georgia. Moved it out of Atlanta. And of course, who did they harm in doing so? Minority business owners in Atlanta. Second order thinking, as you like to say, once again. But man, they felt so virtuous, so noble, so caring about that. But we're seeing a different attitude across America, are we not? Where these corporations are taking
well, you're seeing
action.
More of the same, but you're also seeing a push back towards the middle on the pendulum.
I would
you
agree
still
with
have
that.
loony leftists that are living in la-la land and refuse to accept facts. Like, there were thousands of people celebrating the death of a peaceful activist, but they want to deny that. They were denying it all night on CNN. You've got people that can't seem to wrap their head around the pretty obvious motive for this. Instead, you got people on ABC talking about how, oh, it's such a touching love story between the shooter and his boyfriend and the text messages that were released in the indictment.
I'm telling you, it's like I've said, we now hold, in some circles, I'm not generalizing here, I'm talking about those on the left that are fully bought into the radical gender ideology garbage.
To bring a little levity to the conversation on the C Spire text line from the 601 talking about being arrested for anxiety.
Yeah.
I'd be arrested every day as a dentist.
So true. So true. But it just seems like we celebrate the
dudes in dresses,
but we deem those who are masculine as toxic. There was a while there, right?
Welcome to the suicidal empathy of feminism.
And now we're learning that at the heart of this situation with this killer is more trans crap. Now his mother's speaking up. You've seen this. She's saying, yeah, he was radicalized. Described the assassin as pro-trans rights. And you saw now the conversation between he and his, I guess, trans partner, where he's disclosing, yeah, I did it. I thought I could just hide the gun and live the rest of my life with impunity. Seriously? I mean, what a trail he left all over the place. Who would have thought, honestly, that within less than a week, this guy's in custody, and the state of Utah has already said they're going to pursue the death penalty.
Well, in fairness, the forensic detective skills of the FBI failed to identify him.
That's true.
They had to release the images to the public, and it was after that the mom and dad of the shooter were like, yeah, that looks a lot like him. And then the picture of the gun came out, and you're like, yeah, that looks a lot like Grandpa's gun that he's got.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But I think, though, it was awfully naive on the part of this person to think that they could do this and just go scot-free and live out their life without ever it coming out that they were the killer. So now we have this exchange of texts between him and partner. Says he did it, and when asked why, you may have it so that you could quote it for us, but when asked why, he basically said, yeah, you can't negotiate with a person that hates like this. So we just got to exterminate them, essentially. That's the way they think. You know, does it not feel like that this radical gender ideology, this really just popped up
The exact quote is, "I've had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out."
Okay. Enough of his hatred.
If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence.
Right. Unbelievable. And that's what he thought. Political hatred, no doubt, the core of his alleged actions. We have to be fair under due process in our system. It's alleged at this point, but of course, pretty clear all the evidence points to Tyler Robinson being the killer. His parents recognized him, as you said, from the surveillance video after the shooting. The father, it had to be painful, reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the shooter in the news. He agreed, yep, looked like our son. That's what prosecutors say in their filings. That had to be a tough one. How can all the gender ideology zealots, how can they not feel some degree of complicitness in this?
Well, nothing else in their life has ever been their responsibility.
That's so true. We're stepping aside for a break. Emily Havens with the Grammy Museum at 11:05. Jim Perry, chair of the Mississippi Council on Economic Education, at 12:05. Coming right back.
If you're about to start
Mississippi.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Standing in the rain with his head hung low. Couldn't get a ticket. It was a sold-out show. Heard the roar of the crowd. He could picture the scene. Put his ear to the wall. Then like a distant scream, he heard one guitar. Just blew him away. Saw stars in his eyes. And the very next day, bought a beat-up six-string in a second-hand store.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. A little foreigner. So yesterday, a judge dropped terror charges against Luigi Mangione. He's the person accused of gunning down in broad daylight on the streets there, the United Healthcare CEO. So when it was announced outside the courthouse, when it was announced by the judge that the terror charges would be dropped, there's a crowd following this guy around like a groupie, like some sort of big-time celebrity, and they erupted in cheers. And just looking at the images, these folks got like shirts on with his face imprinted on it. You've seen this.
Oh, yeah. One dude's wearing a Luigi hat, which Nintendo is notoriously litigious for their intellectual property, and it's amazing that they haven't brought their lawyers down on all the people using the Luigi from Mario Brothers fame imagery to glorify a murderer.
And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're deifying. They're beyond glorifying this killer, this murder. That's the American left. Yet, there are a lot of mainstream media outlets and others that would be considered high-profile figures on the left that want us to ignore all that. Tell us it's not happening. That no, it's both sides. And I'm not going to sit here and say they're not lunatics on the right, too. Of course there are. I mean, because there's so many people. Unfortunately, they're pervasive in society. But you can't ignore the fact that in the wake of what happened last week with Charlie Kirk, the nation is not ablaze. Right? I can't remember anything, any rhetoric coming from this president or any Republicans or any high-profile conservative figures calling for the use of violence to achieve their agenda. I can't find any. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I just can't. We could play a show full of montages, right, today of people on the left. Elected officials in the U.S. Congress, even the president, the former president. How could they not feel responsible to some extent? Yet they pointed all at Donald Trump and the right.
Because they are allergic to accountability.
That seems to be the case.
Responsibility is their kryptonite.
And again, we have to be honest here, and that's what we do on this program. Bernie Sanders, I have to give it to him. He called it out. He really did. He said, nope, this isn't how we do it. Even the crazy people on The View, who would have ever thought Sonny Hostin? I don't think she's ever said anything I agree with. She hates everything I stand for. But yet, she actually did say, no, this isn't the way to get it done. Something to that effect. So, I'll give her props for that. I hope she means it, and I hope she remains consistent to that viewpoint.
I got audio right here to give kudos as well to Senator John Fetterman.
Yeah.
Don't compare him to anyone. And if you do, then you will incite somebody to say, well, now I feel like I have to stop that and take them out. People have seemed to have forgotten that the president took a shot to the head. And can you imagine if that shot would have gone the way Charlie Kirk's one, and what kind of condition our nation would be in? This is such a dangerous time right now. And now why? You don't need this an opportunity to share your opinions on it. Just, again, it's appalling, and allow folks enough space to grieve. The man hasn't even been buried yet. And it's like, that's why we wanted to have a conversation that we have to find a way to work together. Don't.
Totally true. I heard a statement. It may have been Stephen Miller, Rhino, that was talking about all those who were. Stephen Miller, of course, works for the president. All those just in the private sector in particular, but of course in governmental institutions such as classrooms and schools and universities, say as well, like, who wants to work with a person that when you meet him in the break room is celebrating the death of somebody, or you're standing next to him in the OR. He went, through the various scenarios that may be encountered, because that's what we're seeing. It's not unique to any particular occupation or discipline. We're seeing it from doctors and nurses and political figures. But really bothers me, I guess, is the teachers.
I got the audio.
Yeah.
Where the left calls people enemies of the Republic, calls them fascists, says they're Nazis, says they're evil, says they have to be removed, and then prints their addresses. What do you think they're trying to do? They are trying to inspire someone to murder them. That is their objective. That is their intent. And when you see online, Sean, as we've seen for the last few days, tape after tape after tape of federal workers, bureaucrats, staffers in the Pentagon, educators, professors, healthcare workers, nurses, celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. These are radicalized people. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country.
Man, so true. Yet, it wasn't too long ago, we had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking military officer in this country, testifying in front of the United States Senate that white rage was the biggest problem in the military. Zero evidence of that. Zero. That's who was in charge of America's armed forces. Ignoring the reality that, no, it's people that on the left who have been radicalized with nutcase gender, climate, and race ideology, and just deep-seated contempt and hate for one man, that being Donald Trump, that drove two nuts to take shots at him. And I guess in this case, with this crazy person, Tyler out there in Utah, who took the life of Charlie Kirk just because he promoted the ideas of faith and country and family. That's all he wanted. He said that. Yeah, my goal is for people to love this country, to get married, to start families, and continue the tradition of those values that makes for a better quality of life for everybody. That's all he wanted to do. That's what he espoused. And he encouraged young people to do so and to think about that. He was also a fierce defender, as we are here, of free markets and capitalism. And it's not that he wished any ill will on these people that feel compelled to go change their gender. But he did, as we have, he condemned it for children that are forced into it by selfish adults, honestly. All he said was, and I think most clear-thinking people agree, just don't force it on me. Don't force me to grant any sort of preferential treatment. In my view, you don't deserve, all these days and weeks and months, whatever the heck we do to celebrate all that stuff and all these parades and protests and things. He denounced that. That's all. He never really, I don't remember him ever objecting to one's right as an adult to do what they wish to their body. I think, like us, he thinks it's stupid and destructive and harmful. I caught a video this morning when I was scrolling of one a transgender person having a conversation with Matt Walsh. Similar type setting where he's addressing a big crowd and attendees come to the mic one by one, and this just person was all about trying to convince him and everybody else there that I'm really a woman. Well, how do you know? Because my friends who are women tell me I am. What? That's your standard? Seriously? And you could tell this person is unclear, unsure, unhappy about the decision they made. Oh, my people, they respect me, the people I work with, I socialize with. Okay, fine, that's great. Then what are you here for? What are you talking about? What's your problem? No, obviously, that's not preventing you from succeeding and thriving in life. Go sit down. Be quiet. Coming right back. Back with you in the Element Well studio. The Dow up 300 points today at this moment. The NASDAQ, however, down. It's being drugged down by NVIDIA. I think I saw Meta down as well. So you got some of the tech names that are down. The funny money's sitting around 115,000. And then, of course, oil still in that $65 a barrel range. Really very little movement. Just kind of stays in that $60 to $65 range as it has for several months. Now, investors today on edge. They can't wait for the exciting commentary by Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. It's baked into the markets that the Fed is going to adjust the benchmark interest rate downward by a quarter of a point. The president, of course, is calling for a whole lot more in the way of cutting and on an immediate basis, but it's largely believed that we're going to see a quarter point. I don't think you'll see a lot of movement in the markets after Powell talks, except in as much as we shared with you before, he uses some of these code words that they all key on, mainly about the future. And you can watch the markets go up and down as he's talking, mainly because he sort of talks in circles a lot. And he'll say one thing, And then, like all economists, comes back and says, oh, but on the other hand, and so, okay, there goes the market one way or another. So that's what's to be expected today. There's no doubt that even though the president is across the pond there in jolly old England, he is being entertained by a British military band and a performance there in Windsor. I'm watching it live. He, of course, accompanied by the prince and spouse, so Camilla. And I'm betting you, though, Rhino, that he will not waste any time in responding and posting something after Powell's remarks and, of course, after whatever action the Fed board takes today. He likely won't be happy, and he will let them know, too late, Powell. I can see it now. So mortgage rates have clicked down a bit. 6.3%, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood. But prices of homes are up, so not a whole lot of relief. Still somewhat of a problem in the housing market. That's still going on. And would it help if interest rates declined and were lowered? Yeah, I think it definitely would. But you're always got to be concerned that, well, if that happened, would that spur demand, and demand would increase the price of real estate. And so it's really just kind of an offset. So we're still seeking an equilibrium there. I think it's fair to say. You got an update for us on this Delta State situation. That has ignited quite the firestorm. We shared with you yesterday, you're aware, a student was found hung in a tree on campus. It was deemed by the coroner, the president of the university, that no foul play was involved. We read the official statement from the coroner yesterday, who said he couldn't find, I don't remember, it sounded to me like standard coroner language, no lacerations, no broken bones, et cetera, thus no foul play. But, of course, there are always opportunists that are trying to leverage this tragic situation for political gain, I would say. What's going on there?
Yeah, there were rumors and reports that there were broken limbs on the victim, and that originated from a TikTok by someone claiming to be the victim's cousin. If I'm not mistaken, it was the mother of the victim that acknowledged that that person has no relation, so therefore would have no information, which leads to another point. I didn't catch all of the press conference. There is a press conference that Delta State put on earlier just before we got on the air, and it was finishing up as we were coming on the air. But part of the press conference I caught was there seems to be some consternation within the victim's family involving getting direct information from the university regarding the event.
Okay.
Because the university is respecting the wishes of the victim, of the student, and the people that he put on his emergency contact list does not include all extended family and some family members that seem to be upset that they can't get direct information, that all that information is being given to the people on the victim's emergency contact list.
I got you. Well, we have a listener, by the way. I'm not going to do this person the honor of reading what they sent, but it's one of your favorite people that likes to send me emails and always refute what I say. And that's fine. He has a right to do so. He sends it to my SuperTalk account. But it concerns General Milley. And I disagree with him. Everybody knows what he said and what he meant, and he was kowtowing to the woke race pimps in this country. You can think otherwise, sir, but that's exactly what he was doing.
You mean the same General Milley that admitted he would tell China beforehand if Trump wanted to do something?
That's absolutely the one. So, yeah, I'm not going to do it the courtesy
Some people just live in la-la land.
The fact is, he was largely responsible for implementing all of the various activities and
Like privilege walks?
right, that sort of stuff, and the curricula adopted by the academies of our armed services. That's well documented and exposed. He certainly didn't prevent it. He could have, and he basically was more concerned about turning the U.S. military into a bunch of social justice warriors than he was preparing them to be warriors against the enemy that would seek to destroy this country. And there are, unfortunately, those out there, and that is the core function of the military. There's no question about that. And what happened in the Air Force Academy out in Colorado with the privilege walk stuff? I mean, there are videos of that. And there are members of the armed services that discuss that. So you can think whatever you want, sir, but and attempt to defend Milley, but I think he was despicable, in my view. So, back to the Fed, talking about what they're going to do today. I don't know. Other than a quarter point, I don't think we're going to get much more than that. But now the prognosticators are predicting 3 cuts before the end of the year, including today's cut. And so that's good news for investors, for the markets, for the economy overall. Profits continue to be strong, but more importantly, margins are strong. And we did get reports on consumer spending, which came in and shocked the markets better than expected. So the consumer seems to feel pretty good about their situation. I will point this out. I'm disappointed that we're headed for another government shutdown within 2 weeks. And it looks like the status quo of passing a continuing resolution which just extends spending at its current levels for a few months seems to be the likely conclusion to avoiding a full shutdown. Now, the president says he wants to extend it through the end of January. I differ with him on that. The speaker says, let's look at the middle of November. We will shut down without additional funding, and shut down is a very generic term that means a lot of different things. People tend to blow it up to be a much bigger consequence than it is. But September 30th is effectively when we don't have any more money to keep operating, except for that money that comes in automatically, such as Social Security and Medicare. But the left always says, oh, yeah, your Social Security and Medicare will go away. Not true. Those are completely separate, handled separately. There are some things that could be interrupted, sure, but nothing to the pain level of the tens of millions of people that rely on Social Security and Medicare. That's simply false. So that's coming up, and the Democrats have dug in and said the only way we'll help you pass, and it will require support from Democrats, particularly in the Senate, not so much in the House because we have a majority there, assuming all Republicans sign on to whatever is agreed to. But over in the Senate, it does mean that you'll have to have some Democrats. They say extending the ACA enhanced subsidies is a requirement. Coming right back.
Hey, this is Bob, and if
What we stand for.
Did you see any action? Did you make any friends?
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. 601-879-4395. That, of course, would be the C Spire text line. The house band's going to be performing October 20th at Representative Lance Varner's farm. The barn burner, this will be the third barn burner, as it is called. He has confirmed that the governor, Speaker of the House, Commissioner Andy Gibson, Commissioner Mike Cheney will all be on hand. Treasurer David McRae, I think some others are being booked as well. It should be a big old time, and we'll be on the stage playing a little music for you. Looking forward to that. Lance Varner, you can check him out on social media and see the details. It will be at Varner Farms. He's got a really nice place out there. We're looking forward to that. Let's see. Can we have the mainstream media arrested, says Dave in Monticello? After all, they caused all kinds of anxiety, talking about how anxiety is considered an offense in the UK and could get one arrested. I had a friend that sent me some information about it, Rhino, and this apparently goes back to two laws, one passed in 1988 and one in 2003. The Communications Act 2003 allows UK authorities to arrest people who post content on social media that causes distress or anxiety. That's like the antithesis of free speech. And of course, in the wake of learning more about what radicalized this murderer in Utah, seemingly his experience, his interaction on social media, including Discord, which has lots of separate type subject matter servers is what they call them. They're really not dedicated servers, but that's how they describe it. And they get in these communications groups and yuck it up, I guess. And so it's bringing to light again Section 230, where social media companies are, for the most part, immune to any kind of liability for what happens on their platforms. And so the Congress, this is possibly something that could receive bipartisan support. Congress is talking about maybe taking a hard look at that once again. Back to our discussion on the budget. This is important. This affects your pocketbook. The Treasury released the August report for the United States federal government. The deficit, $349 billion. For August, the year-to-date deficit with 1 month remaining in the year, that being this month, the month of September, in the federal government's fiscal year, stands at $1.9 trillion. If September comes in line with September of 24, we have no reason to expect anything different. We're going to be bumping the $2.2 trillion deficit level for fiscal year 2025. That would be the third largest deficit in U.S. history. The largest still, $3.1 trillion in the COVID 2020 year, and then $2.8 trillion in Joe Biden's first year, also because it had a huge COVID relief bill, the so-called American Rescue Plan. It did need rescuing. You're the one that put a match on inflation because you couldn't stand the idea that the economy may recover without any action whatsoever on your part. You're more about attribution than you are what's pragmatic and practical. So here we are. I sure hope the Congress gets serious about addressing this. And a lot of people ask, well, it's unsustainable. They say it's unsustainable. Where are we going? What happens? It becomes unsustainable when it's literally unsustainable. Where it becomes a problem is if we can't sell our debt, because we need to sell that debt to raise money to fund government. When buyers of our debt, and I don't mean just foreign buyers, I mean domestic buyers as well, individuals, institutions, financial entities, and so forth, when they say we're not buying the debt, we don't believe you're going to be able to pay us back, that's when it becomes a problem. Other than that, the major problem it can create is inflation. And that's where we are right now. We're stepping aside for a break. That's a great song there. I don't know that they ever did another one, the 5 stair steps. Ooh, child. Fox News SuperTalk News is next, and then Emily Havens with the Grammy Museum Mississippi.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Hump Day.
It's our pleasure to welcome now Emily Havens, Executive Director of the Grammy Museum Mississippi. Hey, Emily, thanks for coming on.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us what this is all about. You got a new exhibit.
We do. We are so excited to open our new rock exhibit next Thursday for sponsors, and on Friday to the public. It's one of my favorite genres, and I can't wait to for everyone to see what we've curated, all the great artifacts, all the great bands, the great music. It's going to be a fun one.
And so 80s rock. I'm looking at the promotional information. September 25th, 6 p.m. Tickets are available, right? They can go to the Grammy Museum Mississippi website to buy tickets for this event?
We do. We still have a few left, not very many. We're going to be excited to have Twisted Sister here that night, along with Alan Hunter, a great and original VJ of MTV, to help us celebrate, and an incredible photographer, Mark Weiss, who actually did all the photography of all the big bands and album covers. And so he'll be joining us that night to tell stories, and they're going to be some fun ones for sure.
Okay.
We have some tickets available, and would love to have some more people join us that night for a fun night of stories and music, and it's going to be great.
All right. So Twisted Sister, you got enough room to get the hair in the museum there?
Well, one of our ads is your hair big enough? So we're definitely. I think the '80s are back in a lot of ways, and for me, I don't know that they ever went away. I love the '80s, and we want people to come and enjoy and relive their days and all the great music and all their big hair and the wild outfits. This exhibit, I think, will bring people in, much like the MTV one did, that just enjoyed the bands. And a lot of these bands are still touring.
Yeah.
We feel like it really was the wildest decade in music, and a lot of these they're still selling out stadiums, and big anniversary tours coming up for several of these big bands. So I think it's going to be fun to celebrate. We'll have a lot of tours and visitors, and I think facility rentals with great themes around the '80s rock. It's going to be fun. Come see us.
Yeah, certainly my favorite era of music, and we play a lot of it here on the program for sure. What was the catalyst behind this idea?
I'm a huge Poison fan.
Yeah, I think you told us that before. I recall that. Yes.
Yeah, I have. I have. This has been a dream of mine to be able to highlight all these great bands. You know, some of them, most of them actually don't have Grammy Awards. It was really the theme of the thread through the exhibit as we kind of curated it is how they are by far fan favorites, but not always the critics' favorite. And so we addressed that in the exhibit, which makes it really interesting. But these bands are still touring. They have huge fan bases that are very loyal. I'm one of those. So this exhibit has been a dream of mine for sure.
Okay. So who else do you have in mind to feature, to curate? Can you share any of that with us?
Well, right now we really, you're the first one for me to tell. But we have a bonus track. We have extended Taylor Swift through her birthday in December, and we will announce our brand new exhibit that will be replacing Taylor right after the end of the year, and that's going to be a good one. It's going to be about Mississippi and great artists. So I hope you'll have me back to announce that. So right now our featured exhibits will be this 80s rock exhibit, and Taylor will celebrate her through the rest of the fall, and her engagement and all the things Taylor right up through her birthday in December. We've got so many other things going on right now. Of course, in October, we're going to host our 7th annual education gala and honor Grammy Award winner Trombone Shorty. We're excited to welcome him to the museum with his band and raise some money for music education. He is so passionate about music education and a great artist, and we're loving him and his trombone and just a different genre all the night. The night will be totally New Orleans, and it'll be a fun thing. Members are still able to buy tickets first, and so those went on sale yesterday, and they'll go on sale to the general public on October 2nd.
Yeah,
and
I'm looking at
we've got so much.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the promotional piece there, Brass and Bayou, Crescent City to the Crossroads Gala. Great photo there, by the way, of Trombone Shorty. Really good.
Yeah, we think it's going to be a fun night. It's not going to be a Mardi Gras themed night. It's going to be more New Orleans and French and kind of classic New Orleans. So
yeah.
we have incredible food, and it's just going to be a fun celebration. Great drinks in honor of New Orleans, and it'll be a fun night. And hopefully people will buy tickets and support music education and come join us for our 7th gala. We also will be presenting our Lucy Award, our Mississippi Educator Award that night to a great Mississippi educator. So more information on that. So it'll be a great celebration of really what our mission here is at the museum is education.
Yeah, good. Sounds like a lot of fun.
We I have to tell you about all the free programming we have going on right now. Of course, our exercise program is in full swing, and it's completely free on Saturday mornings to come and exercise. But we have just kicked off a new Gentle Moves and Grooves. It is chair yoga for people, and that program is completely free twice a week. So we are still enjoying having people in the museum and moving to music and also exercise. And then next Monday we kick off our first session of ballroom dancing. And so again, music and people moving and all of these programs are completely free for the community. So we hope that people will come out and enjoy chair yoga and ballroom dancing, and of course our free exercise classes on Saturdays.
Yeah. All right. Sounds like a really big deal. So how have the visits been this year? What's the traffic been like?
We've had one of our largest years in number of visitors. I was just looking at some numbers the other day. 89% of our visitors have been from outside of Bolivar County. So we know this museum is bringing in people from all over the state and the region. We hope that they came for our special exhibit, Taylor. We know they did. We know they came for our Music America exhibit, and we hope that will be the exact same thing for this new rock exhibit. So we're constantly updating exhibits so that we can continue to bring visitors back to this area, to Mississippi, to eat, to enjoy our music, to enjoy our attractions that we have in this state. But it's definitely been a record number of education of students visiting as well as visitors. And we think it's going to be probably one of our biggest years in the number of visitors. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of museums. People are getting out, traveling, they're enjoying special experiences, and we're just glad to be a part of that.
Gotcha. So do you track the traffic at the other Grammy Museum as well? In California, right?
In LA? Well, a little bit, not as much. Of course, we work with our partners in LA. They definitely are in the middle of everything, so they have a lot of traffic. But I don't necessarily look at their numbers.
Okay.
We just kind of communicate and partner on programs and exhibits and things like that.
But you always share with us that you receive visitors from all over the country and all over the world, in fact.
Yeah, we do. We have this past year, well, so far this year alone, we've had visitors from every state in, over 20-something countries. So we know that people are visiting us and they're visiting, places like the B.B. King Museum and international visitors love this area. They love the blues. They want to come here and experience it and visit it. And we're happy to be a part of that, of their visit and their stop here. We're lucky to have a country music trail marker as well as a blues marker. We see people traveling every single week to visit these different markers and take their pictures in front of them and learn more about this area and the music. And so much of it came from Mississippi.
Are they just music enthusiasts in general that have an interest in and want to see the exhibits?
Oh, definitely. And I think that, like, as people specifically that are touring along these great trail markers that we have in Mississippi, it kind of gives them kind of a built-in itinerary. And it's great destinations like Cleveland and other places that have big attractions, but it's also getting to stop and visit the places that are kind of off the beaten path and getting to experience maybe where that bluesman was from or blueswoman was from, as well as the country music artist. So I think it gives them a reason, kind of a built-in itinerary to come and visit us and see everything that they can see and experience in Mississippi.
Gotcha. All right, Emily, appreciate you joining us and giving us an update. Tell everybody about the two events coming up real quick.
Yeah, if you're still interested in looking for something fun to do and wild to do Thursday night, we still have some tickets available to come see Twisted Sister at the museum. And then, of course, our Education Gala, October 30th. It's going to be a wonderful night and a great way to celebrate music education. So check out our website, our Facebook page. Give us a call, all the things. We would love to have you here at the museum.
Appreciate it. Emily Havens from the Grammy Museum Mississippi. Coming right back, folks.
Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. So share with the folks what is now up on the SuperTalk.fm website, a story about a couple of employees at Mississippi College.
Yeah, the SuperTalk news team has put together an article. I think it was written by the news director, J.T. Mitchell, updating the story from yesterday, where they reported on some inappropriate remarks by members of the faculty and staff at Mississippi College. And Mississippi College has now put out a statement that, quote, Mississippi College is aware of inappropriate statements on social media that are wholly inconsistent with the institution's mission and values and fall short of expectations for professional conduct of employees. MC has suspended 2 employees pending further review. Mississippi College condemns all violence, political or otherwise. And there's only one person that was reported yesterday, and that was Ashley Crayson, who I believe worked in the the Modern Language Department, was coordinator for the Teaching English to Speaking of Other Languages program.
Okay.
But when asked about the second individual, they declined to make a statement because it was a personnel matter.
Right. Makes sense. But suspended, not terminated.
Suspended pending review.
Okay. Interesting. So I think, as we said earlier, and this week that we could expect a number of lawsuits to be filed. They'll claim wrongful termination. One in particular that's getting a lot of attention is the Washington Post writer. Complains about being fired because she did, in fact, fabricate a Charlie Kirk quote. That's what that's all about.
It's a pretty simple rule of journalism. If you're putting something in between quotes, you don't get to change anything in between those quotes.
Yep.
Or it's no longer a quote. If you are summarizing, then you put it into brackets.
Yep. And so the Post said, I'm surprised the Post took action, honestly. They certainly doubtful too many on that staff are fans of Charlie Kirk.
Well, if you read the statement that she released on her Substack, which was the statement she received telling her she was fired, it seems that this was the last straw. This was the excuse they needed to fire her because it doesn't seem like they really liked her being around all that much.
Ah, okay. So she's just insufferable, essentially.
Who'd have thunk it?
She says they accuse my measured blue sky posts of being unacceptable, gross misconduct, and of endangering the physical safety of colleges. She contends that's charges without evidence, which she rejects as completely false. They rushed to fire me without even a conversation. She makes no mention of what you just shared with us, that she has a history of being a problematic employee, essentially. And again, I'm critical of the Post here for even giving a reason. That's where I differ. And I don't think I differ with a whole lot of people in this country. I differ with those who believe that you got to have a reason, you got to have a cause. Again, I'll state that I support at-will employment. Now, in some states, and by the way, it differs by state. All of this is governed at the state level by statute. Some are more employer-friendly. Some are more employee-friendly. You should know that in Mississippi, our laws are, in fact, more employer-friendly. Now, I don't support employers being abusive, but I do totally support the right of an employer to hire and fire and compensate and promote whomever they want for or without reason. That's just the way the free market works. And by the same token, I support the employee's right to work for who they want, to leave whenever they want, provided it doesn't breach any privately, separately agreed to contracts, which are enforceable, by the way, under our law. Can't be out of bounds with crazy stuff in those contracts. They won't stand the test of our law, in violation of our law, but just in general, that's the way it ought to work. And her contention was that Charlie Kirk said black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. He never said that. What he did say was that Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, you do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously.
In reference to them talking about how they would not be in their positions without affirmative action.
They had not acknowledged it.
Yeah.
I mean, who could forget Joe Biden? He told the country in 2022, I'm going to appoint a Supreme Court justice who specifically, explicitly described them. It's going to be a black female. Doesn't really matter whether they are qualified, that they possess the skills, the integrity, the comportment.
I think it's all but been proven that Kamala Harris did not have the skills or comportment to be anything with any kind of power in this country.
And he said the same, and that was with respect to his vice presidential running mate. He made it very clear. It's going to be a black female. And this was the case with Ketanji Brown Jackson when he told the country, yep, this Supreme Court justice nominee is going to be a black female. How is that not discriminatory? You just excluded everybody who's not a black female from being considered for this post. And that's all Charlie Kirk was rightfully pointing out. That when you put DEI doctrine, ideology above capabilities, qualifications, skills, performance, background, experience, all the above. That's different than saying there's nobody that's a black female that meets that criteria. I've never heard him say that.
You can't expect the left to argue in good faith. Every argument they have is in bad faith because every argument is predicated upon BS.
It sure seems. It totally seems. And that's all he was pointing out, was that when one's physical attributes, in this case black female, when those take precedence over merit and qualifications and all the other litany of considerations and factors that should be considered, we're going against the grain of what made this country great. We love winners. We love excellence. Everybody has something they're excellent at. Go do that. That doesn't mean you're qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. That's just not the way it works. You may deem that as unfair and inequitable. And I know it takes second-order thinking. All you're doing is hurting the people you say you're champions for. That's effectively what happens in the long run. Unbelievable. So she's all mad about it, and she got terminated.
Well, the funniest part of her termination is there were other journalists, including one Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, that came to her defense and reposted the quote that she editorialized. And there were people on social media offering bounties if they could find a clip of Charlie Kirk saying those exact words. One of them got up to $125,000 that would be Venmo'd to the account of the journalist's choice if they could find a clip of Charlie Kirk saying that exact quote. That prize money went unclaimed because you can't find it because it doesn't exist. But leave it to lying journalists and muckrakers and worthless wastes of oxygen to smear someone who the body was barely cold.
Unbelievable. So our listener that always sends me emails when he's something doesn't sit right with him basically wanted to point out that I'm wrong and that I said General Milley, Joint Chiefs of Staff, stated that white rage was the number one problem in the military. And he sent me his quote. I'm familiar with the quote. I've seen videos of it, read it. I believe that what he said inferred it, implied it. And this is when he was on the Hill. I think it was Matt Gaetz that was questioning him, if I'm not mistaken. He said, it's important that we train, this is Milley, and we understand, and I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, so what is it that caused, he was talking about January 6th, caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. Well, you've already said you think it's white rage that caused it. Is there any evidence that this had anything to do with white rage? I typically think of that as in a racial context. Was this a racial thing? No. We're coming right back. Okay, so if I misrepresented what Milley said there, I apologize for that. But I believe that he inferred it. I don't understand why he felt the need to talk about white rage. And he did state, yeah, I want to read and understand it. And then somebody, I can't remember who it was, the Congress said, okay, well, you're just kind of adopting the woke ideology. And he said, no, I've read communist books as well. I want to understand communism and what makes it tick. That doesn't mean I'm a communist. Okay, fine. But this person also said that the Joint Chiefs of Staff don't have any influence or control over the curriculum in.
Well, that person also said Trump would be in jail at this point.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. They were convinced of that. That was before he was elected.
Yeah.
By the way, he sent us some notes on that. But all the research I did indicates the Joint Chiefs of Staff can have influence and control over the curriculum. And if they don't, well, that's a problem. How could you be sort of the governing body of the United States military and not have any purview over the curriculum in the armed forces? That doesn't make sense to me. But I don't think that there's any dispute that the military did adopt a lot of critical race training in its curricula, did institute privilege walks. I mean, that's been widely documented, publicized. Seem to recall it mainly with the Air Force Academy in Colorado, where there were individuals who actually were compelled to participate that talked about it. I think it's pretty clear, in my view, that Milley felt like racism is an ingrained problem, embedded problem in the U.S. military. I don't know why he would be so. And it already concluded that racism was the cause of the January 6th situation. I never really thought about that was based on racism. I think there was a lot of people that were mad, that were convinced that the election did not reflect reality and that there were some integrity problems with that election. I don't think there's any question that was their complaint and why they entered the Capitol. And by the way, on this program, I condemn them for the way that they approached it. I believe we have a right to redress our government, and if we think that elections are tainted and are not consistent with the truth and are not carried out with the utmost of accuracy and trueness and integrity, sure, I think we have a right to call attention to that, get to the bottom of it, investigate it.
I've also not found anyone with any reasonable explanation as to why there is video evidence of security officers opening doors and allowing protesters into the Capitol, just like there is no good explanation for the officers that had a protester in handcuffs, took him down a side hallway, took him out of the handcuffs, and gave him a fist bump.
I believe there's video of that.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we know. And then there's all these reports about all of these people who perished at the hands of the protesters who entered the Capitol. There's zero evidence of that. That's, I think, been debunked multiple times. And we should point out as well. And by the way, this person that wrote us wanted us to know about their military service. And I'll just say this, we appreciate your service. I won't shy away from that, though you're attacking us, and that's fine. You have a right to do that. We appreciate your service. And then had to share with us his litany of academic achievements as well. I just got to tell you.
Credentialism.
I got to tell you, sir, that means nothing to me. It does at the point you graduated, where that's all you have on your CV. And I get it. That's all I had as well when I graduated. I couldn't afford to go to all the various schools he went to. I was broke, and my parents had just lost my brother, and I had to get off their payroll. I paid about half of my college. They paid about half of it. I didn't have the privilege he did to continue my education in postgraduate school and on to law school and so forth, and all his talk about his rank in his law school. That, honestly, sir, means nothing to me. Nothing. Your professional accomplishments would mean more.
Prognostication skills when he thought Trump was going to be in jail.
That's a good point. I could send you my CV, which is one of professional accomplishments after college. I deeply respect anybody who achieved what you did from an academic perspective, but it doesn't prove you're smart. And I think that's what you were trying to do. Those degrees don't make you smart. Charlie Kirk proved that, right? There's a lot of people that accomplished a whole bunch in this country that didn't go to college. Don't have all those degrees. Again, anybody that did that, you're due respect. That's a grind to get through it. While they were grinding doing that, I was out building jobs, creating jobs, and building wealth. That was my decision. That was the route I took. It doesn't make me better or worse than you. And I represent a lot of people that went that route. But I do get a little put out when people think, well, because I have all these degrees, I'm naturally smarter than you. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I just do. My dad had a 5th grade education. That's it. 5th grade. He's the smartest person I ever met. There's a lot about being smart that goes way beyond what's in them damn books that you get tested on to get those degrees. The biggest takeaway from a college education, in my view, really 2 major takeaways. You learn how to learn. That's number 1. Number 2, you finish something. There's something to be said for that. You think the learning's done once you get those degrees? You're just starting. You're just starting, especially when you consider how fast knowledge churns in our current society. What you're learning in that classroom, again, you better learn how to learn because you're going to keep having to do it if you want to succeed. Hell, you and me, we're spending all our day learning so we can come in here the next day. That doesn't make us better than anybody else. That's what we do. That's our job.
But it definitely makes us more prepared to argue with nitwits, midwits, and nobodies that take 5 to 15 minutes of their day to consume politics from their favorite talking head that plays into their biases. I'm sorry, that 15 minutes of sitting on your couch watching Fox News isn't really going to inform you as much as what we do.
And I think we'd be accurate, would we not, in pointing out that this person is not a fan of Donald Trump.
No, he hates him. Orange man bad all the way for him.
And that's fine. He has a right to do so, but
when you let your Trump derangement syndrome color your ability to use logic and reason, then you've lost the plot.
Lot to be said for that. So I'll get off of that. I've talked enough about that. I apologize for it, but I felt to take that to another level and just point out, again, you and I get paid to express our opinions. That's my opinion. You may differ with it. That's perfectly fine. That's what's great about this country. And by the way, I'll say it again. He served in the U.S. military several years. I think said was a colonel when he retired. Thank you for your service. All right, let's move forward. So y'all are talking about this, Brian and Madison, the protest in Great Britain. First I've heard on any news or radio, but I've been seeing uprisings and protests for several months in multiple countries. I think people are at the breaking point. And again, their freedom and the yearning for freedom is universal. It's not anything unique here. We're just fortunate we live here in this country where we revere and respect freedom. And we're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy. And what we strive to do here is advocate for government, for policies that understands their role according to our founding documents, which is to protect the freedoms that we are endowed with by our Creator. And this country is unique in that we are founded based on that belief.
But it is true. There have been protests and uprisings and attempted coups and the like around the world. And it's weird how some things overlap in my world because I'm a big fan of One Piece, the manga and anime out of Japan. And there have been protesters in now 2 uprisings, one in the Philippines, and I believe the other one was in Indonesia, where the revolutionaries were using the flag from the main characters of One Piece.
Yeah.
As a rallying symbol.
Saw that.
Just weird how those 2 worlds crossed over.
Well, I would say it's encouraging to see the protests and the activity across the country and across the world where people are standing up for freedom. The other thing that is a bit heartwarming is just seeing all the prayer vigils. Just people out enjoying themselves, enjoying prayer, remembering Charlie Kirk, and calling for a revival and a rededication of this country to God and those principles. We're coming right back.
Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. The president says the GOP is going to hold a midterm convention. I don't know if the party has confirmed that yet, but that's his desire. And he made that clear, a couple of months ago. Seems like he started talking about that, getting some energy built up for the midterms. On the C Spire text line, be careful, gentlemen. If the Dems in this state get their way, they will send King George's men for you two because you cause them anxiety every show you do. That's JW in Sunrise. Let them come on. That's fine. Let's see. How about this one, Rhino? I guess y'all still believe that the people they arrested for shooting JFK, Bobby Kennedy, and Martin Luther King were all just random crazy people, decided that they woke up one morning and they were going to go shoot the president and or Martin Luther King or somebody. Right. This person is suggested here that the person that's been arrested and in custody, the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk, is not the actual person who pulled the trigger. That's what they're saying.
Giving the texter the benefit of the doubt, there was some confusion over the initial arrest of the shooter, which more information has come out about that. The old guy that was first arrested in the immediate aftermath of the shooting that told people around him and the police that he was the shooter, and then was on the ground talking about how he has the right to remain silent, kept repeating that over and over to himself, and then as he was being drugged to the cruiser was screaming, "Shoot me, shoot me." He gave FBI investigators the permission to search his phone, and when they did, they found images of scantily clad little girls. So they handed off that investigation to the local SVU to make sure that all of the proper policies and procedures were followed according to state and local laws. And that man has now been charged with child pornography charges.
Unbelievable.
And more charges will likely be coming because he was sending the images to other people.
Jeez. Well, they need the full throat of the law thrown at them for commission of those crimes. That's just mind-boggling to me. On the C Spire text line, working as an RN and paramedic for over 30 years, every, in all caps, transgender patient that I have ever taken care of has been an absolute mental health train wreck, some to the level that they were unable to function in society. And I think you and I have had numerous discussions about that where we both agree that what they need are mental health counseling, even potentially at a young age if they're exhibiting those tendencies. But it's become a badge of honor in our society. And these parents, lullaby, run them off and go mutilate their genitals when they're 10.
And that's the truly sad thing, is because when I was growing up, you had tomboys. If a girl liked football and wear her hat backwards and go play with the boys, she was a tomboy.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of tomboys I knew growing up wound up being pretty girly girls later in life. But if you follow the left's ideology, well, that girl's playing sports with the boys and she's throwing the football around. Obviously, she was born in the wrong body.
So crazy. But we're not surprised at this whatsoever, that there are numerous examples and numerous examples of remorse, right? Adults that were sort of coaxed into this at younger ages and now deeply regret it.
And those are some of the saddest situations because the very people that enabled them to make those life-altering decisions immediately turn on them and just spew vile vitriol at them because they dared to detransition.
So true. Amanda from Pike County says, talking about John Fetterman, the more he heals from his stroke, the better sense he makes. He's still a Democrat, however.
Yeah, I will give him kudos for his statements in the wake of the assassination because he was one of the few that seemed to sincerely be horrified by the political violence instead of just putting out some PR pablum to satiate your voters. But he talks a big game, and he loves being in front of the camera and making what seem like common sense points, but he votes lockstep with the Democrats every time.
Yeah, that seems like it. And so I think he's confused, perhaps. Benny Thompson trying to make the DSU death a racial issue. What a fool. That too on the C Spire text line.
Do you expect any less from Benny Thompson?
No, zero. Paula Meridian says, if that guy supports General Milley like that, he probably supports Charlie Kirk's killer. You know, and I'm not sure, just to be fair, that he expressed support for Milley. He was more about just calling me out.
Nitpicking.
Right, about what I said.
Well, actually.
Exactly. It was more, just so you'll know, Paul, about trying to send some information to us to know that I was wrong in what I said. So, and I since apologize for misrepresenting a little bit. I still stand by my belief that Milley is a wacko in that respect and was all about the CRT stuff. Fox News, SuperTalk News, and then Jim Perry, chair of Mississippi Council on Economic.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello? You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Hump Day.
We appreciate now Jim Perry. He's the chair of the Mississippi Council on Economic Education for joining us here in the Element Wealth Studio. Hey, Jim, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, Gerard, great to be with you.
So this is a new role for you. You are the chair of the Mississippi Council on Economic Education. Tell the folks exactly what the mission of this organization is.
Sure, and I'm the chair of the board. Which
chair
is
of the board, yeah.
Volunteer position. There's people that know more about it that work on it every day, thank goodness. But the mission of our organization is to increase economic and financial literacy in Mississippi and support the K-12 teachers who are doing that every day. We give them training and resources. And also to really try to equip our students to have more chances of success and future prosperity. We do that first of all, we're not a government agency. This is a nonprofit organization. We exist through community support, donations.
Okay.
In Mississippi, we have for a number of years required, if you're going to graduate high school, you need to have a semester class in economics and a semester class in personal finance as a part of the career and college readiness program. Well, I love high school football, but I don't necessarily want the defensive coordinator teaching economics unless they happen to have an economics background.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure that these teachers who are really at a very formative age teaching high school students what economics is and personal finance, that they have the resources and the training necessary to do that in a good way. So we teach teachers how to teach. We give them the curriculum, everything they need for a semester class. We put them through a training program so that we test them when they start the program, the teachers that is, and then we test them when they end the program.
Okay.
To see what they know. If they don't know it, they're not going to be able to teach it. And so we do that. Last year, in economics, we trained 67 teachers. Overall, we've trained about 1,000 in the program to date. That's a lot of teachers throughout the state. And we do with that same thing with personal finance. We've trained about almost 400 teachers in personal finance and about 400 teachers in entrepreneurship and career readiness, the same thing. We also work directly with students. We do things like the stock market game, where both every fall and every spring, last year almost 9,000 students participated in the stock market game. We don't, unfortunately for them, we don't actually give them $100,000, but we give $100,000 on paper and say, how are you going to do compared to the S&P 500 on a relative basis over that time period? And if your team performs better than everybody else, you can win scholarship money.
Wow.
We do statewide economics challenges and other personal finance challenges.
How do you pick the teachers, or do you pick the teachers? How are they determined who's going to participate in this program?
It's really a self-selection. So if say you want to go teach at Madison Central High School, you want to teach economics, you think, well, I need a little refresher course. Yeah. It's been a while since I've run a big successful technology business. I've been doing talk radio for a bit. I need a little bit of economics remedial education. You can sign up. And if you do that, we're going to give you a stipend once you finish the class, and also once you finish your semester. You're going to get continuing education credit. We partner with the Department of Education on that. So if you go through our class, you're going to get multiple years of continuing education credit, which goes towards renewing your teacher's license.
Sure.
And you're also going to get all those resources to make life easier for you as you go through the semester class.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So are you seeing a lot of interest?
We have. I mean, like I said, we trained last year hundreds of teachers.
That's amazing.
And there's very few problems in our society, either for a family around a kitchen table or for society as a whole, if we had a more financially literate workforce.
Agree.
Like everything, good gets better and bad gets worse. In the case of personal finance, good gets better when you save money. That money's going to compound on itself if you invest it, or even if you just invest in a very safe asset like U.S. Treasuries. Bad gets worse with credit card debt. If you leave, I don't know about you, but when I went to college, the number of people who were banks that were knocking down my door on here, sign up for classes, and also while you're at it, sign up for a credit card, and you don't really realize that credit card is going to start charging you lots of interest. And if you leave college with student loan debt, there's millions of Americans, unfortunately, that have left college with massive amounts of student loan debt, and they have degrees that aren't really going to make it easy to pay off that student loan debt. Well, they've dug themselves in a hole, and bad gets worse in that situation.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make those decisions, every day we make decisions based on economics, and they may not realize it's based on economics, but it is. And you make decisions that are personal finance decisions. You may not realize that's what you're doing, but you are.
Makes sense.
If we give these students a base level of education when they're in high school, so that yes, they need to. When they go off into the world, they need to know history and English, and they need to know science, and they need to know these core competency things, so they can go off and get hopefully a higher education. Whether that higher education is at a university or at a community college or a trade school or apprenticeship program, what have you. But no matter what you do, you're going to have income hopefully, and you're going to have expenses, and you need to know how to balance that checkbook, and you need to know what insurance is and what type of insurance I need and what type of insurance I don't need, and how to go about buying a car and how to go about buying a house, or do I want to rent a house? All these things are daily decisions that for far too many people off in the workforce, or when they're in the workforce, they're just not ready for it.
Yeah.
And the best way that I think that we can help is help those teachers know what they're doing when they're in the classroom to teach them, so that these kids are ready when they go off to college and into the workforce.
So do you have sort of an orchestrated, coordinated curriculum?
We do. And people can go to MCEE.org, which is the Mississippi Council on Economic Education, and find out more about what we want to do. If you're a teacher, if your kids want to participate in the stock market game, we just need teachers to sponsor it at a program, and we'll give them a stipend if they want to sponsor that. And it's not too late to sign up for this fall's competition. Do the same thing for the spring, or if the teachers want to teach these classes, they can find out the information on the website and reach out to Selena or others, and we can help them get trained.
What kind of feedback, Jim, do you receive from the students?
Well, I tell you, we do this Forum on American Enterprise every year, and it's coming up this year, October 23rd at the Jackson Convention Center. It's our annual fundraiser.
Yeah.
And it's really great at that event where we have a lot of the students who've gone through the programs, teachers who've gone through the training programs, but also students who have. And it makes you feel really hopeful and optimistic about future, because these kids get really excited about it. And we've had thousands of kids each year go through one of these programs, whether it's the economics challenge or the personal finance challenge or the stock market game. And and they also are in the classroom with teachers who aren't looking at this as a throwaway class just to check a box that makes sure kids can graduate, but they're really learning something, and it's really, really relevant. Some of the programs that have been the most exciting when we also do webinars for teachers. And some of the programs that have been the most exciting are like the economics of Taylor Swift's tour, or how professional sports economics works, or in some cases doesn't work.
Yeah.
And these are the things that really touch our daily lives. And it's not just about kids being able to get in the workforce and have a better foundation to make their personal decisions. It's also how you understand the world around us. We absolutely are impacted these days about inflation, cost of goods, trade policies. These things that are affecting what people's daily expenditures are and what their income is and what a dollar is worth. To really understand, to be able to participate in the political process, to really understand policy, you got to have a basic foundational knowledge of what these things are.
Yeah.
And it's not just intuitive or obvious to everybody, and people may come to a different conclusion about what the right policies are, but you do need to understand what the terms even mean.
Sure.
And that's what a basic economics class can do.
Well, that's excellent. So do other states have programs like this? I know you said this is a totally private
It is a private organization. There's similar councils in not every state, but most states. In the case of one in Mississippi, it's been around for a couple of decades. It's evolved over time. In part, the evolution has occurred as we've added these requirements. We were the 7th state to require economics to graduate high school, and that was about 20 years ago. It was just a couple years ago that we added the personal finance, and that's as a part of the career and college readiness course. So the organization has evolved, and those requirements have evolved.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, great job, and I think you're perfectly suited for this. You have a background in the financial world and still work within that world.
I do. I'm investment banking. I do infrastructure financings around the country, and I was an economics major in college at the University of Virginia. So,
that's awesome.
It's just sort of I think it's an important thing, and I enjoy working with this group and the great work that Selena and her staff does.
Yeah, I know she's passionate about it. I'm in Rotary with her and talked to her a lot about it. So great job. Appreciate you coming in.
If people want to support the organization, come to our website, come to the event on October 23rd at the Convention Center. David McRae is moderating a panel with economists from Wells Fargo and Cadence Bank and a PhD economist from a university. So awesome. David McRae will do a good job moderating that panel.
Jim Perry, chair of the Mississippi Council on Economic Education, has been our guest. Appreciate it, Jim.
Thanks Gerard. Appreciate it.
We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Hello, I'm
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Well, you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now. Don't forget to say you will. Don't forget to say yeah. Say you will. Say it right now, baby. Say you will. Come on. Say you will.
Well, I've known Jim for quite some time, and he's perfectly suited for that role. And Selena, also, that runs the organization, member of my Rotary Club. She's really good at that as well. I'm very passionate about it. And it's just so dang important that our young people are exposed to real-world economics. And he's right. It's hard to have any kind of meaningful discussions about complex economic policy, which affects every one of us, without just at least a rudimentary understanding of certain principles, and certainly in running your household. It's extremely important to understand the dynamics there and everything you need to be aware of there. It's just too often you get thrown to the wolves as soon as you're out and trying to manage your own budget and really haven't been exposed to all of those concepts and details and things you need to be concerned about and attend to in running a household. So, good stuff. Let's see what we got here on the...
It's almost like there was a point to that home economics class that got done away with.
That's true. That is so true. Let's see on the C Spire text line. I was a tomboy because all I had was boy cousins to play with. However, I am very much a girly girl, as my daughter calls me. Didn't make me transgender. Yeah, it's because you didn't have a short circuit in the brain.
Or you didn't have parents that wanted the newest, trendiest thing to brag to their other idiot parents in the friend group with.
It is.
Why else does it seem like Hollywood is just awash with transgender children when it's supposed to be such a statistically unlikely thing? Well, it's already statistically unlikely for you to make it in Hollywood. So when you add on the statistical likeliness of having a transgender child, it's almost as if it's a social contagion.
When it got to a point where it's like a trophy, that's just sick. I mean, it truly is. And I think because you try to turn something into something it wasn't, you just know you're going to have bad outcomes, right? When that sort of stuff goes on. And that's what's at the heart of all this transgender. Who'd have thought, man, short 5 years ago, did you see this coming the way it is today? I don't think I did.
I mean, there have been people that have been making arguments about the ever-growing tolerance of the left for a long time.
Yeah.
But they were shouted down with the slippery slope argument.
Yeah, that's true. I just would have never envisioned that changing one's born at birth biological gender would have sucked so much oxygen out of the room in this country. And it's just invaded every corner of society. And now it appears behind acts of homicide. I just didn't see that coming. I really didn't. And again, you're an adult and you want to go chop up your body, have at it, as far as I'm concerned. Just don't force it on me. And don't... you certainly have a right to condemn those of us who think it's weird at a minimum, but you don't have a right to hurt us. You don't have a right to infringe on our rights. You certainly don't have a right to kill somebody. And that's kind of what this alleged killer of Charlie Kirk said. Yeah, that hatred. And his idea of hatred was someone who just didn't accept his lifestyle. And it wasn't so much him. I guess it was his roommate. Who knows? Maybe he was having those thoughts. We don't know that at this point. But I don't recall that Charlie Kirk ever said, no, you don't have a right to pursue changing your gender through medical treatment if you so choose as a child. I don't remember him ever saying that. I don't think he did. I think him being a very grounded, level-headed person when it comes to individual freedoms in this country would support that. But I think like us, just don't poke it in my eye all the time. I can't help but think about all the drag queen crap that swept the country. Don't see it quite as much today, I guess, but
because the pendulum is swinging back from the extreme left.
Well, I hope so. Was it the Dodgers last summer before last, that had a big night with the drag queens that pretended to be Catholic nuns, some junk like that? A total mockery. Why would a major league baseball franchise embrace all that? Have a night for it.
Well, it's the Dodgers. They're in L.A.
And again,
surrounded by it.
And let me be clear. They have a right to do that as far as I'm concerned.
In fairness, they have themed nights the majority of their home games.
That is true.
It's just a weird theme to pick.
It's a super weird theme, but it just felt like they were poking it in your eye with it, right? The big elite Episcopal school up in Massachusetts, I think. Remember, all the kids had to go to church in the Episcopal sanctuary that was on the campus, and they had drag queen shows in the church. That just makes no sense to me. Again, I support their right to do it, but that's not enough. Isn't that the fundamental problem? The fact that we accept that you have a right to do stupid stuff like that, and I have a right not to like it, not to attend. That's not good enough, is it?
Nope.
That's what's wrong about this. So I don't support harming you or even denying you any rights because of your beliefs and your
you don't
practices.
Deserve extra privileges.
Completely agree.
Just because you decide to do something to yourself out of delusion.
Completely agree.
Again, I go back to how did we get from live and let live,
That's
peace,
right.
dude, to you will use my pronouns or else. It's ma'am.
That's so right. With the emphasis on the low voice, right? Ma'am. That's exactly right. Oh, man. That's precisely where we are. And that's what's upside down. That's what's wrong. Now, we got a report that the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi,
She's got to go.
Man, she received a bunch of blowback Tuesday after she suggested in a couple of different interviews that the Justice Department would, quote, absolutely target, end quote, hate speech. No, Madam AG, that's not how it works in this country. Now, she said hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. No, it actually is there, Madam AG, citing 3 U.S. laws that criminalize threats of direct violence, such as threats of kidnapping or injury. That's not what you said, though. That's different than hate speech. Now, she's since, as you know, she's walked it back somewhat.
She doubled down first.
She doubled down, that's right. Then she walked it back. She told the news organization Axios in a statement that she was talking about criminal groups or people that incite violence, not those who said hateful things about the slaying last week of Charlie Kirk. That's who she says was a friend of hers. But, yeah, she got a bit over her skis here and is now trying to walk it back. And there are some Republicans and conservatives that are calling for her ouster as a result.
I mean, even if you're being as generous as possible, this is her second strike. She's got one more, if you're being generous.
I would say that's true.
Because you remember, she was the one that said she had the Epstein files on her desk.
Sure did.
And what happened with that?
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. Let's see here on the C-Spire text line. What do they say? Every American should have to answer a short survey every time they renew their driver's license. I bet this would red flag a lot of bad people in our country. Yeah, I don't think I'd support that. That sounds like what I would deem to be a bit of an invasion of privacy and undue burden on people just to renew their dang driver's license. You talk about catching hell from those who already say that voter ID is racist and suppresses votes because people can't get a driver's license, which of course is horse hockey. You'd exacerbate that situation if you attached surveys to it. So, sorry, I disagree with that. I know what you're trying to accomplish, but that conflicts with a free society, in my view. That's beyond just what's minimally necessary to be granted the privilege of driving a vehicle in this country. Thomas, I can't watch the video, so I don't know what you're sending us there that the president said. People don't realize bad people lie. The surveys won't help, says Casey from Summit. That's a good point as well. That's a problem as well. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is the Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. I didn't get a chance to read it, but something Thomas sent us. Looks like it's the president talking. Can't tell where he is there. It's a C-SPAN recorded video. What he's talking about there. Maybe.
Looks like he's on the lawn headed out to Marine One, where he usually stops and talks to the press.
Well, this would have been en route to UK? The UK, I guess?
It may have even been yesterday.
Oh, okay. Do you know what he's talking about? Oh, he said he supports Pam after hate speech and says he might go after journalists like him that treat him unfairly. Okay. You've probably already heard it since all the conservatives on Twitter were bemoaning it. Yeah, I would support that. I don't know exactly specifically what he means by that. I don't see that going anywhere, honestly. Gerard, we've all heard the stories of drag queens, story hour, and trans parades in front of children. My question is, when was the last time you heard of one of them facing charges of indecent exposure? That's Mose. I don't know that I have heard any such charges, and I'm not sure what the standards are and what the elements of such charges are. What constitutes indecent exposure or drag queens?
Well, that generally varies depending on your distance from the beach.
Oh, okay.
Like, for example, in North Mississippi, you would likely get stopped and questioned by officers for indecent exposure if you're walking around in public in a bikini. But at the beach, it would be completely normal and would not raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
So that's one of those wonky things in law where it's up to local interpretation.
Yeah. I think that's probably
so when you
right.
have
a little bit
pride parades
subjective.
with naked dudes in front of kids out in L.A., do you really expect L.A. to do anything about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the answer is no. I wouldn't expect anything to happen there.
And the bigger question is, why did the parents take the kids to begin with?
That's what's the most despicable aspect of it, for sure. No doubt about it. Also wanted to point out that Scott Colomb, he's a candidate for U.S. Senate. He's a district attorney in Lowndes County. And they're busy putting out press releases. Did one yesterday, and the title of the email, the press release, District Attorney Scott Colomb delivers keynote address at Oktibbeha County Democratic Banquet. Scott called to end, this is something he's running on. What do you guys think about this? To end income tax on teachers and cops, and called out Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith for her vote to kick more than 140,000 Mississippians off their health care. Of course, that 140,000 is a concocted, estimated number that's really not grounded in any fact or experience. It's just more of these projections and prognostications by people who think they're really, really smart about this kind of stuff. And what he's in Mississippi, I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, 140,000, because the only thing that she's voted for thus far was the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And that does include a number of provisions related to the Medicaid program, but very few of those apply to Mississippi because most of them deal with the expansion coverage group and Mississippi has not expanded Medicaid, has not extended Medicaid to the coverage group considered to be part of Medicaid expansion. So I'm not sure where he's getting 140,000 Mississippians, because virtually everything in there deals with the expansion group, not the typical conventional, traditional Medicaid expansion groups. This idea of eliminating federal income taxes for teachers and law enforcement, I don't know. Is there some interest in that on the right, do you think? That's what he's really hanging his hat on, quite highly on that.
Well, he's hanging his hat on people being against it so that he can campaign as being the champion of teachers.
Yeah, that's probably
because right. I don't think many fair-minded people would be okay with just doing away with income tax. Yeah. I mean, there have already been changes such as certain public service employees were allowed to not send as much to Social Security. But even then, I think that's been changed and walked back.
It has been.
So income tax would be an even bigger hill to climb for select individuals, unless you're like you. The people on the right would be much more willing to go, all right, no income tax, than no income tax for this group and that group.
That's right.
No matter who the groups are.
That's exactly right. So
I think the only group you would get full-throated support for carve-out would be maybe service members.
Yeah, you would think that would be bipartisan, no doubt about it. But I don't know. So he seems to be really promoting that idea. Now, something I heard this morning that was very exciting, it's something I've supported for a long time. So we talked about the government running out of money by the end of the month. Here we go again, same old cycle. All the chaos and controversy and bickering and grandstanding, that's definitely going to happen. The Democrats say you guys have got to extend the enhanced subsidies passed in the American Rescue Plan under Joe Biden in 2021 for us to support any funding legislation. And the president wants to extend a CR out, a continuing resolution out through the end of January. Chuck Schumer says not unless we get some legislation to extend these subsidies, which end at the end of 2025, December 31st. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says let's just extend it out through the middle of November, so essentially a month and a half. That'll give us some time to debate the regular order 12 appropriations bills. But where I'm going with this, there's a rumor, it's coming from the finance community, the investment community, because they would have a huge interest in this, that there's some interest, at least in the House, of reducing or perhaps totally eliminating capital gains taxes. Now, I've been a huge proponent of this for quite some time. I just have an issue, an objection to paying taxes on the gain of a capital asset, which is what capital gains taxes obviously do. I think it would engender a huge boost in economic activity and economic output. You just see all sorts of investment capital flow in to the economy, and I think that would generate lots of economic activity, growth, revenue, income, subject to income tax, jobs, wages, subject to income tax, all the above. At a minimum, let's reduce it down to 15% from the present 21% level. I think that would be a wonderful idea. However, I must point out, still looking for some serious effort to address spending, and it just doesn't seem to be on the table at this point. I haven't heard anything that certainly appears to meet that that standard and show that there is a serious effort. You haven't heard a lot about the Doge stuff. It's kind of died down, right? It's just nothing. It's been a month, 2 months since we heard anything. Elon Musk departed, in May? Late May, I believe?
Well, in fairness, they're likely to be having a much lower profile after Big Balls got beat up.
Yeah, that's true. That's certainly possible. I get it. But
I mean, there are still reports that they are trying their best to find deficiencies in various departments and agencies.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. But as far as reading Treasury, consuming and analyzing Treasury reports, given that the latest for August, 8 months into the Doge team being on site, the deficit was $345 billion. Doesn't feel like we're making a lot of progress, and the fact that we're headed for another $2.2 trillion deficit, and the only thing we could get out of the Congress was $9 billion of rescission in a rescission package, and now they're looking at some $5 billion package. That's foreign aid. I mean, you're not serious. Final segment after the break.
The bets made to order Mississippi.
Well, I'm gonna raise a fuss, I'm gonna raise a holler about working all summer just to try and earn.
Alan Jackson bringing us home into the final segment here on Middays. By the way, Rhino has shared the video we played at the end of the show yesterday out on Twitter. And this was a young man that was emotional. His wife had purchased a suit, and he took a video of himself wearing the suit and just talking about how good he felt about how he looked in that suit and how he had kind of changed his ways in his life and been influenced in a positive way by what happened last week with Charlie Kirk. And so kudos to him. He does look good, and God bless him. And you said he came out with something recently after that, right?
Yeah, he said in the first video that he wanted to be a better man, a better husband, and start going to church. He was going to wear that suit to church with his wife and family. And he released another video, a follow-up video, where it was basically just him. He got a little emotional, but it was him expressing thanks for all the outpouring of love and support he's seen. And he talked about how there's thousands of comments on his original video, and he's trying to read them all and respond to all of them, but it's a mountain he's trying to climb. And he talked about how he had a hard heart for a long time, and through all of this, he expressed that he understands now what it means to be blessed.
Isn't that something? That's just fantastic. I think that he is an example of thousands, if not millions, of similar cases across this country where people have been moved, have been touched in a positive way. So I guess if you could say if there's a silver lining out of this, that would be it. Maybe we are going to return to those godly principles of love and respect for human life and one another, and dedicating our lives to serve the Almighty. And you do that by serving society. I believe when you take maximum advantage of the talents that God bestowed you with to serve your fellow man, that's a good thing. And to be rewarded that is acceptable, is a good thing, because it makes us all better. Simple as that. On the C Spire text line, this is Ed in the Delta, why doesn't Congress just eliminate all taxes? Neither side seems to care much about the size of the deficit. I hear you, Ed, and so unfortunately to the left, I really do think they see the tax code as an instrument of punishment. They don't really think about we need to implement all these various taxes to raise money, because they're going to spend more than they raise. They're not going to use it to even if that would, in fact, produce more revenue, which it's not always a given that that's the case. That's been proven. Art Laffer and his famous Laffer curve educated us all on that 40, 50 years ago. But it's all about punishment. You just need to pay more. And in the case of the Republicans, it's because they really won't touch what's driving our deficit debt, because it would inflict pain on people, and nobody wants to do that because it means you won't get elected in the next cycle. That's kind of where we are. Somebody also said that it seems like that the Democrats stick together. Who said that? I saw that earlier. Now I can't find it.
Yeah, is it me, or does it always seem like a high percentage of Democrats in the House and Senate seem to stay together as opposed to Republicans? Why?
Yeah, and I would just say to that it's a lot easier for the Democrats
versus individuality.
Exactly right. That their agenda is just more suited to their viewpoints. They're pretty much in lockstep on it. And on the Republican side, it's not that they don't necessarily agree with the agenda. It's more about the degree sometimes. Let's just take taxes, regulations, as an example, from an economic policy perspective. It's the degree of those taxes, the degree. Whereas there is no limit on the left side. Oh, more? Sure, I'm down for that, right? They don't say, no, you're getting out of my comfort zone. And on the Republican side, you got people that are more thoughtful about that. Now, you may disagree with me, but and that just covers the economic issues. I think when you get into the social issues, though, I think what we're finding is lots of Democrats that feel uncomfortable with the lurch to the left of their party in many circumstances. And then they got a problem in that the Democratic candidate for the largest city in the country is a far-left communist. Maybe people would argue, say, no, he stopped short of that. He hasn't indicated support for the ending of the right to own private property, which once you say that, boom, you're full-blown communist. At a minimum, he's a strong socialist. Now even Kathy Hochul, the governor, the Democratic governor of the Empire State of New York, has come out and endorsed Zoran Mamdani. By the way, he didn't reciprocate. You saw that? He didn't return. No, I don't endorse her. Oh, my gosh. What a mess they have on their hands. But they allowed it to happen. And when seems like every other talking point they make has to do or is rooted in class warfare, that's what you get. That gives rise to a Mamdani. Looks like he's poised to win that election, sadly. We're out of here today. Back tomorrow. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.